Coming up this week on Success Won't Come Calling.
It's like the way the teachers now in school where it's like, oh, sorry, you can't win anything because everyone's a winner. It's not true. You're not all winners.
You're not.
Sorry, but you're just not. If we were all the same, there wouldn't be people who are on another level because not everyone is built for big things. And that's okay. That's their choice and that's how they're happy. For me, like, I would never be happy with like mediocre.
Hello, friends. Simon Gibson here. Welcome to SWCC. If you like the podcast, please click subscribe and you will know whenever one of our fantastic episodes lands, and this is no exception. I'm very glad to welcome Katherine Jones to the podcast tonight. Kath is the leader of the Think Wine Group and also of an influencer marketing agency called We Are Social Nation. Kath, how are you?
Hello. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very, very wonderful, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you're more than welcome. It's our pleasure. So, you've got to tell me first of all, what came first, the influencer marketing or the wine?
Yeah, it was influencer marketing. I randomly fell into it. I've always had jobs in sales, but I randomly fell into influencer marketing. And initially, it was actually more of a full service agency. That was how I originally got into it. Kind of fell into reality TV predominantly. And then that's when influencer marketing started actually becoming a thing.
And when did it start becoming a thing, just in terms of time?
I think I was around 24, so it must be about 8 years ago now, 8 to 9 years.
Right.
And when I first started working in influencer marketing, there was no kind of actual payment. It was just you get free stuff in exchange for promotion, but the brands were getting this huge return investment that no one had ever seen in their life. So like it was all on Twitter at the time, even pre-Instagram really. Instagram was just coming about, but it was all done on Twitter. So like a brand would send someone a dress and then someone would wear that dress on the red carpet, post it on their Twitter page, and then that website would end up with like 100 grand worth of sales on instantly. So it was like return investment, like insane that you've never seen. So straight away, obviously, we're like, okay, we're going to monetize that. And my business, which I was a part of, was only a startup in itself. I was like the third person in. So we were like, quick, let's monetize this before anyone else does. And we were one of the first influencer agencies in the UK to start monetizing, making people pay for placements on socials.
And do you have a view on what the next sort of big marketing opportunity is like that? Because for that just to come out of nowhere, that just by a celeb, I mean, the first time I heard of it was when I think it was Cristiano Ronaldo was.
Oh yeah, he's huge.
They were saying like whenever he like holds like a bottle of Lucozade up or something, he earns more in a week than he does playing football, which is a few bob to be fair. I mean, do you see that influencer marketing as a long-term strategy, or is it have the social media companies got to grips with it now?
No, I think it is long term, but it's just following the channels as they go. So it's already creeping off of Instagram and onto TikTok, and then it will creep from TikTok onto something else. So I do think influencer marketing is here to stay. It's just the platforms that are going to develop, because where else, especially like millennials, where else are you going to find them except for online? It's just, I don't know how else you'll get into them. So you'll have to be doing it through social media, but it just depends what social media they're on. Because the younger generation now, like my age, I'm 32. So you probably find me on like Instagram, maybe Facebook, but like these 20-year-olds and below, they're all on TikTok. So already we're changing channels now to TikTok, and we're doing less with Instagram and more on TikTok. And it's just keeping up with the channel, I think. But the actual influencer marketing itself, I don't see it going anywhere, because I don't know where else you're going to find the young ones. No,
that's right. Yeah. And when did you decide that you wanted to have a crack at that on your own then, in terms of starting your own business?
I got a bit pushed into it, really. I don't want to turn it to a sob story because this is all very positive, but I had worked for my boss for nearly 5 years, and I went and pitched an idea for a business to him. He was like, yeah, all for it. When the time came, he pulled out, and there was just a mess that I won't go into, but it left me really kind of in limbo. Like, I've got this really good job that I love and adore. I work really hard in it. If he can do that to me after 5 years of me working for him, that's it. I'm gone. I've got too much respect for myself to stay. So I ended up leaving, and I didn't actually have a plan to set up my own agency. I had no plan whatsoever. And I had nothing as well, because everything was company by that point: company car, company laptop, company phone. I literally had nothing, just bought a house. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not putting up with you, so I'm going. But I didn't know what I would do next. And then the influencers came to me, phoning me, where have you gone? Kath, we need you. We need you to manage us. We'll leave, blah, blah, blah. We'll come with you. So that kind of, I guess, it was the confidence that I needed to go, do you know what? Yeah, okay, I'll just do it myself. And so I got forced into it, but it was the best thing that ever happened. And that was 4 years ago now. So set up We Are Social Nation 4 years ago. And yeah, we've been going strength to strength ever since. It was just me initially. And then my first member of staff was my sister. And she's still with us now. And she's amazing. You know, she was just a waitress at the time, but I knew there was so much potential in her. And she was like, I'd always love to do your job. And I was like, right, okay, come on then. I'll bring you from the beginning. And yeah, she's been with me still even now. So we've been going 4 years, and we're going. As I say, it's every day is a school day, because I don't know the first thing about TikTok. But if I'm going to stay on trend, and we are going to continue doing influencer marketing, we have to roll with the way the world is going. And the world is heading to TikTok, so we have to.
Is the world heading to TikTok because they're a bit more lenient on the algorithm police? Just because these days on Instagram, and I was mentioning here that I talk about these things as if I'm like an absolute veteran of social media. Before I did the podcast, I didn't have an Instagram account. But anyway, I find that the only thing which works on Instagram is Reels. Whereas TikTok, I think the general perception I get is that it's more easy to scale your content.
Yeah. I do think that I wouldn't have a clue how the TikTok algorithm works. I really just don't know. But I do think it's easier to go viral on there, because things will just pick up, and it's like a roller coaster, and it just erupts. It's like really fast pace. But I don't actually know what their algorithm is. While as the problem with like the Facebook, Instagram is they keep changing theirs constantly. So you almost get to grips with it. And then you're growing your page, you're growing your audience, everyone's seeing your content, and then they change it again and you start again. So I think the issue is they keep changing theirs. If they would just stay put, people would get to grips with it, but they don't. But then we talk about influencer marketing, and you automatically think like Instagram, but then you've now got it on LinkedIn. There's tons of LinkedIn influencers, and you might not know as much, but they're all promoting things. Or they're promoting like coaching packages. They might get a coaching package that you might normally get for 10 grand for free. And then they're promoting that, and you don't necessarily know it's influencer marketing, but actually it is.
It is.
So it's everywhere.
You're right. And that might be just the way it evolves, mightn't it? It becomes more subtle.
Yeah.
So was there an element then of you obviously worked in this agency? Was there an element of you looking at those returns on investment and saying, well, why am I working for someone and taking a wage when I could take a piece of this myself?
Well, no, that never happened to me. And not because I'm not ambitious and I always wanted it, but because I'm like massively loyal. And I've always been that way. So I've never thought like, oh, I want a piece of their pie, because that's just not who I am. It's like, if I was the whole reason that I pitched my idea to my boss at the time was so I could become the boss of that idea. I didn't want to steal his idea. He would have still ran the influencer marketing agency. I would have helped out. But I was pitching him a brand new idea saying, I'll run this and you will... you'll
benefit from it.
You'll benefit from it. You'll be a piece of the pie, but I'll run it. I'll be CEO. I'll be the director. And that was my way of being able to start my own business and get a piece of the pie, but without screwing him over. Because never once did I think, oh, I know, I can do this on my own. Haha, bye. I never thought it until he messed with me. I never once thought in that way.
That's a huge credit to you. And it's a funny thing what you just described, because this applies to all sectors of business. You get this mentality in, I would say, the older generation of business owners. Obviously, I don't know how old he was, but where sharing seems abhorrent to them, and where they feel threatened by the slightest bit of innovation and the slightest bit of ambition, because they think, well, why didn't I think of that? And if I let this one go, all right, I'm earning from it, but the whole dynamic of the relationship changes. What next? Whereas what I would be thinking personally is, I'd be thinking, well, how good is this? Because number one, I would empower one of my team to achieve their potential. Number two, I'm a beneficiary. And number three, in terms of the, well, what will happen next question, good. Because if this person feels empowered, exactly. So it's always been a funny one for me, because I'm someone like you who's loyal, but I also enjoy sharing. I quite enjoy being generous.
Yeah, I'm the same as well. I like being generous. And I always say to my staff, you know, if we're waiting for like that golden ticket now, like we're doing okay. We're all paid at the end of the month. We're all, you know, happy. We're all living a decent life. But none of us are like going on yachts or flying first class. You know, that is the life that I aspire to have. And I've always said, like, if we get that golden ticket and if we all put the effort in, like, we will all go there together, because no one wants to be on a yacht on their own. You know, we will all be there together. And that's how I see it. I do want to share a piece of the pie. But yeah, I guess even though I've always wanted to run my own business, but I never wanted to do it at the expense of anyone else.
And that's a lovely way of putting it, because there's this perception that to be successful in business,
got to stomp on people.
You've got to be ruthless. And I don't agree with it.
I don't agree at all.
I think that you can still be loyal, respectful. You can still provide people with the tools to achieve their own potential and still deliver great financial outcomes for yourself and for shareholders, if that's the situation, or to reward your team well. It's not a zero win situation. It's not about one person winning and everyone else losing. It's about sharing in success.
No, exactly that. And also I think like people it's like you've either got to be ruthless or you've got to be like this nice girl who just like smiles at everyone to get to the top. You know, they're like the two things that people seem to be. Or while as for me, it's like I'm exactly in between that. Like if you piss me off, I'm not nice. But that's only because you've done something wrong. And I guarantee you, if I'm not nice, it's because of you. And that's the only time I'm not going to be nice. That all the other times I'm going to be nice. So it is just that that balance of like, I'm not a pushover and I won't be taking the piss out of, but at the same time, I'm a nice human and I will always try and do what's best for everyone.
That comes across. When you're faced with a situation, because I'm obviously, you know, my background's business as well. When you're faced with a situation where someone does get under your skin, how do you... Let me tell you my story first of all. I used to have a big problem with being wrong. That's men. particularly
that's standard.
particularly bearing how often we are wrong. I mean, it definitely is.
It's an issue.
But I used to. It was because when I in the early part of my career, I was a lawyer, and as a lawyer, you kind of paid for being right all the time, which makes it so bloody exhausting. But there was a period of after that when I went into business where I felt that someone challenging me on whether what I was saying, But after a period of time, I started to try and put myself in the shoes of the other person and think about what their motivations were. And I started thinking to myself, well, if their motivations are good, then I should welcome this feedback. Because even if they're wrong, it gives me the opportunity to assess it and for us to talk it through. Exactly, and talk it through.
Whereas so they're flying off the handle.
100%. Is that something which resonates with you in terms of being able to rationalise between someone who has a positive motivation, which they might be expressing wrongly, and someone who maybe is just out to piss you off?
Yes, it does resonate with me. And to be honest, like I would say I am the type of person when I was younger that I would fly off the handle. And I think it took a lot of like self-development. And do you know what? I don't even like, people always ask me like, what books have you read? Have you read this? I've never read a self-development book in my entire life, not once. What I have done, I'm obsessed with like people and humans, and I ask questions constantly. So I'll always say, so why do you feel that? Or like, why do you think like that? Or, but what makes you think that? And I'm really interested in people's perceptions, people's opinions. I'm really interested in different cultures. So I spent 2 years in China. So when I was there, you know, they're a completely different culture to us, and like just being around them, and it was like my mates would come to visit and they'd be like, oh my God, they're so rude here. And I'd be like, they're not. That's just their culture. Like, but because I was used to it, and I started to just accept, like almost like just accept the world around me and calm down and realize not everyone's trying to get you. Not even, most of the time, the times when you're going, oh my God, they said this, like they don't even know they've said it, or they don't even realize, they haven't even thought of you, and you think they're thinking of you, but they're not thinking of you. And I always say to people, do you actually think they give a shit about you?
You're not that important.
Yeah, exactly, and that's all it is.
Do you know what? This is something I always say to the team members, that you can overthink all of this. You can overthink whether you've said something wrong, you've done something that's a little bit embarrassing.
Yeah.
And you think, oh my God, everyone's going to be talking about me. Well, no, they're not, because you're not that important.
Because no one cares enough. Yeah,
well, exactly.
And they might all talk, especially on the subject of beer fear, wine fear. You know,
we've got to get to the wine in a minute. Yeah. I'm really enjoying it.
If something was to, you know, you might do something drunk, embarrassing, right? And the next day they might speak about it for 2 minutes, but then they're over it. Like, come on, they're on to the next thing. Like, no one's talking about you for that long.
Particularly if you own the mistake.
Yeah.
Particularly if you say, what did I do?
Oh, that was embarrassing. Don't tell me.
And it's just, you got to puff your chest out, move forward, be positive, talk about other things. We've got to talk about the wine. I'm really enjoying it. Tell me what this is I'm drinking, because it's beautiful stuff. And tell me about Think Wine Group.
Yeah. So Think Wine was my second venture. And it came about just purely because the return investment that the brands that I was working really closely with were getting was insane. And they were telling you. So they were saying, oh my God, Kath, last night, within 5 minutes, we've made 25 grand. And I was like, what? This is mad. So I'm like, okay, well, I need a product to sell, because I know how to do this form of marketing. I've got all these people who are, you know, my friends in the industry who will probably do me favors. I just need a product, but what product? Because it has to have longevity, because what I was seeing was people setting up e-commerce stores and then just pulling them down the next day, like making a load of money overnight and then just getting rid. And I was like, no, I don't want any of that. I want like an e-commerce store with longevity. What am I passionate about? And that's what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about wine. I was always going on wine holidays, wine tasting events. Love wine, always have. Love Prosecco. Obviously, being in the influencer marketing world, at one point when I was younger, I used to go to the opening of an envelope. I was literally like, oh, yeah, anything, I'll come. But it's a Prosecco on arrival or champagne on arrival. It's full to the brim of sugar. Yeah. And very quickly, I was gaining weight. And I hate telling the story now, because I've actually come full circle and I've gained weight again, because I've been on a cruise and I've gained like another stone and blah, blah, blah. I've come full circle. But at the time, I was like so annoyed at myself, because I'm like, I've gained all this weight. And like, because I'm in the influencer world particularly, you don't want to look like you've gained weight. So I'm like, okay, I need to stop drinking, because that's clearly what it is. You know, I'm not eating any differently. I'm still going to the gym, but I'm drinking well more. Then I'm like, it's full of sugar. So I start looking into it. Prosecco and wine, all full of sugar. I'm like, what if you could create a wine that still tasted great, but it was way less sugar? And that's all it was. It was like a thought in my head. And once I thought it, I couldn't unthink it. And I couldn't sleep again until it had been done. It was just, it really ran away with me. And then I actually went to a residential boot camp to lose weight.
This was Craig Williams' one, wasn't it?
Craig Williams, yeah.
Because he's been on here. He's awesome.
Yeah,
he's awesome.
So I absolutely.
What's it called? Team Boot Camp.
Team Boot Camp. Yeah. Let's give it a plug. Team Boot Camp.
How are you, Craig?
Need to lose £10 in 1 week, then get to Team Boot Camp. I'm going next week, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what he said to me? He said,
That's what I spoke about.
I always remember what he said on here. I said, you know what, is that like a community spirit that you kind of nurture there? And he said, there's nothing for nurturing community spirit like doing burpees in the mud.
Yeah, no, he's absolutely right, because obviously you all go in there together and you're like sobbing. You haven't ate, and you do eat, but it's minimal. And then you train hard, so it's great. I absolutely love it. I've been loads of times, but obviously you're supposed to go and never go back. Just accidentally, I keep drinking, so I have to keep returning.
But it is alcohol is the worst for weight gain.
Yeah.
And it's something which it resonates with me, because you sort of ignore it a little bit, don't you? Because it's social. It's something which, when you go to these events, which I do, you're compelled, aren't you?
Yeah.
To drink. I mean,
even now I'm like, I could raise you with a glass of wine.
Yeah, it's bloody nice, like, to be fair. Cheers. Not rubbing it in. Is this a Prosecco then, is it?
Yeah, so the one you're drinking's a Prosecco. The other one, I've got two at the minute. I am going to be releasing a red in coming months, but I've got two. I've got a Prosecco and I've got a Pinot Grigio sparkling rosé, which is basically very much like a pink Prosecco. Both are super low in sugar. So it's 5 grams per litre. It works out way less than a gram per glass, way less. So the full bottle's got 450 calories in. No,
it's
so
not.
I mean, some Proseccos have got
A normal bottle of white wine? Because red's not as bad, is it?
No, red's a bit less, but Prosecco, it depends on which one you get, because if you get a brut Prosecco, that's lower in sugar, but they can still be 1,200 calories.
Really?
Yeah, it's still, depending on which one you get, obviously, because it can still go up to like 13 grams of sugar a litre in a brut. But then in an extra dry, like you could have 3,000 calories in an extra dry. Easy.
Joking?
Yeah.
In a bottle?
Whenever you're buying Prosecco, make sure you check if it's a brut or extra dry, because you do not want to drink an extra dry Prosecco.
Probably pay double for the brut as well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm not a big Prosecco drinker, but I don't mind it, and that I wouldn't know that was low in sugar.
Yeah. Well, that was the idea. So what actually happened when I had the idea and I was at boot camp and I'm talking, to the girls about it today, and they're all going, that's gold. So I start looking, does this exist, And it did with one person. There was one competitor, which I won't name and shame, but let me tell you, a taste of cardboard. It was disgusting. And when I found out who they were, I obviously ordered a bottle, not even because I was necessarily going to do it at that point, because I didn't have the money. But I wanted to try it, and I was like, spat it out. I was like, I would never
that bad,
drink
yeah.
that. Yeah. And I thought, if that's my only competitor, like, what have I got to lose here? Because now there's obviously a few more that have come about. But like at the time, there was literally no one except them, and they tasted disgusting. So that was that. So that kicked me more into gear with, I've got to do this now. And obviously I had the struggle at that point was money, because I didn't want to, you probably know with wines, you can like white label them relatively easily. So like you can
just buying someone else's wine
and then shove a label on you. And that's relatively easy. But I didn't want to do that. I didn't want anyone to ever be able to get my wine. So it's made specifically for me, to my recipe, all my brand. So that wine you can never have from anyone else ever.
So you're involved in literally when the grapes are grown?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we use a vineyard.
Yeah, sure.
But we just partner with them. So they're vegan, they're organic. We're in the process of getting our B Corp. So we're all about sustainability and all that. But we partnered with a vineyard in Italy, which took me months to find, because I was so particular about what I was going to get, because I didn't want to be, flogging crap. I wanted it, because what you might notice is on a menu, you've got your crappy Prosecco there, and then you've got your champagne there, and there's nothing in the middle. There's nothing in that gap. You've got your crappy Prosecco full of sugar for 25 quid, or your champagne full of sugar for 50. But there's nothing here for 35 quid that's a nicer quality better for you in terms of health benefits and still tastes great. And that's what the menus every menu I went to was missing. I'm like, where's your healthier option? Where's your vegan option? Where it just wasn't there. So I knew I needed a vegan winery and needed it organic. You'd think that would be easy, but at the time, because we're talking 3 years ago now, there was vegan wineries or there was organic wineries, but there wasn't really both.
There wasn't both.
So to find one, and then I found a few. And then when I trialed some of the other wines, I was like, absolutely not. And then I found my winery, and it was honestly like the minute I tasted it, I just knew. I'm like, this is it. I'm like, even at this full sugar level, I know that with a reduction in sugar, the grapes, that's spot on, that it will still be delicious.
So what's the role of sugar in alcohol? Is it like a preservative?
Yeah, it can be. But in Prosecco, it's basically to mask the fact that it's just being absolutely murdered. So
it's a taste issue.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah. They've just gone, okay, well, we've made it, doesn't taste great, lash in a load of sugar. And also, like, girls do have a sweet tooth, so I think they understand there's a market for that, like, sweet tooth female.
Well, I think there's a market for it generally. I mean, I listened to Andrew Huberman's podcast. He's doctor from California, and he had an episode on what sugar does in terms of dopamine release.
Oh yeah,
and your body, literally, your receptors just latch onto the sugar. It's like, this is great.
Yeah.
It's great. So
you learn about stuff like that at boot camp.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, they do. They put on like sugar videos and all that, and you're like, oh, sugar's the devil.
But you know what? It's interesting though, isn't it? Insofar as if you think about the role that food and drinks has in human beings, it's supposed to be nutritious.
Yeah.
But because the food industry has made everything taste good.
Yeah.
Because when did you last taste something which we bought which didn't taste fantastic?
Yeah.
And when we were cavemen and women, you were walking the land, you weren't enjoying everything you eat, you were just trying to stay alive.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that the role of sugar is more on the taste side. So how come then? Because I'm really enjoying this beautiful glass of Think Wine Prosecco. How come that still tastes good if it doesn't have the sugar? Because
it's come from a great winery that really cares about their grapes, looks after their grapes. Their grapes are everything to them. It's all about the winery. It's all about how well cared for the whole process is. And my winery is like one of the best. And we've won, we've only been going 2 years, we've won 3 awards already for it. And that's not up against other low sugar wines. It's up against every wine. It's up against every bubbly. And we're still winning awards even though we're low sugar. But it's because of the winery. I can't take credit. All I've said to the winery is, hello, make me your wine with way less sugar, this amount, please. And then they fiddled with it a bit, like sent me a few options. I've said, because I didn't want it to be 0 sugar, but I didn't want it
it's a healthier option in terms of it being calorific.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So I just needed a better option, but not 0, because the one that I told you about that I'd tasted, that was 0.
Right.
And I was like, oh, no, that's disgusting. So maybe with just a little drop, then it will be okay. So that's what we landed on, like 5 grams a litre, which is super, super low. It's actually extra brut. So, really, really low. So, but it's purely down to the winery and how they look after their grapes and how much they care for their wines. That's why it tastes good. But I knew from the initial moment I tasted their full fat one, I knew that when they made this for me, it'd still be amazing, and it was.
Because of the quality of the grape and the quality of the work they do.
The quality of everything, it's just top notch.
Are they substituting the sugar for anything?
No,
they're not?
No. We've got no substitutes whatsoever. It's just, because basically when you're making not all sparkling wine, but when you're making a Prosecco in a tank, because ours is made the Charmat method, so it's in a tank, it's reduced to 0 sugar anyway during the process. And what they do is they add this thing called a dosage, which is basically like a grape must. It's like grape sugar. And they just add a little drop of that in at the end. But obviously others just lash a load in. But we've just added a small drop. So it's not substituted. There's no like preservatives or whatever. And it's organic as well.
So it's not like chucking Canderel in your coffee rather than sugar?
No. There's no replacement whatsoever. It's just purely less grape must.
I've got you.
Yeah.
just because I'm really enjoying this glass, so I'm asking
glad.
this as a devil's advocate question. Is there any risk, do you think, in putting a health badge on a product in terms of any sort of alcohol, which is inherently unhealthy? They tell us that it's the alcohol.
Course,
Is there any risk in that?
I've never once put a health badge on it. The only thing we ever say is it's the healthier option. It's a healthier alternative. So it's not healthy. It's still got 11% ABV.
But if you're going to drink it,
if you're going to drink it anyway, you may as well drink it with less sugar in. So it's the healthier option, but it's not healthy. How about you just drink water? That's
or you
better.
drink it in moderation.
In moderation, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not like people always go to me, oh, so it's only 450 calories. I can drink 2 bottles then. And I'm like, well, even though I'm thinking, well, yeah, I will never say to someone like, yeah, you should do that. Because I think the point is you're happy because you get to just drink 450 calories instead of 1,000. And so, yeah, it's a healthier option, but it's not, I've never, ever claimed that it's healthy because at the end of the day, it's 11% ABV. And that's what I wanted to avoid. And people will always say, will you make a non-alcoholic version? And I'm like, well, I would never say never if the demand was there. But at the same time, I'm not passionate about that. I love alcohol. I want it to be 11%. So why would I create a product that I don't even love?
Well, that's the thing. It's your purpose, isn't it? It's your vision. And if because I tell you what, that non-alcohol market seems to be booming.
It is, yeah.
Because now when you walk into like the beer aisle or into an off license or something, I mean, they do like most of the main, even like the premium beer brands, like your Moretti's and your Peronis, they do non-alcoholic versions. But you look at what's in them.
It's just the same. It's still buff, yeah.
Well, there's the same amount of sugar in it.
Yeah, it is. So just get the alcohol.
Well, what they're doing there is like the opposite, isn't it? They're basically saying we're going to retain the taste through kind of a combination of sugars, but it's healthier because the alcohol isn't in there. Yeah. So I'm with you that if people are going to want that taste or the sensation or whatever it is, then it's about balance, isn't it? Balance and moderation.
Well, yeah, and exactly, and that's all it is. It's like, this is for, like, I'll be honest, it's mainly women who buy it. It's predominantly women, but this is for like that woman who likes quality over quantity. And she's willing to spend a bit more, but she's only going to, she's going to drink half the bottle nicely at a nice pace. She's not going to it's not for the 18-year-old girls who are just down in it to go out and get drunk. It's not that vibe. It's very much for someone who really prefers quality in their product.
So it's more of
and
like
it's health conscious.
It's more of an a boutique product then, isn't it? It's a high end luxury item.
Yeah, absolutely.
But still, it's not unreasonably priced because what you've said is quite right. That to buy, I mean, obviously champagne is different, but if you look at the price of Proseccos and champagnes and Pinots as well, 35 quid a bottle for something that's quality is not out of limits, is it?
No. And not when your Proseccos that you can buy from like vineyards for like 4 quid a bottle. There's sometimes I see them on a menu now and again and they're like £28 a bottle and I'm like, in what world? That is just not £28. So I think that it's think on a menu is really reasonably priced, I think, for the quality and the standard. But even if you buy it online on our website, it's $19.99 a bottle, or obviously it's less if you buy more. And what I find is we've got a lot of repeat custom, and the demographic is women over 28, and I think they're just the ones who are like having it at a weekend, a bottle to themselves. They want a quality bottle. They don't want to run out and get cheap rubbish from the supermarket. And also, I think the younger generation, they seem to be like not drinking, but they're taking drugs.
Yeah,
that seems to be how it's going with them.
It's all changed, hasn't it? I mean, I always think there's a number of things at play there. I mean, one of the things, unfortunately, is the pandemic, which has just come past because it's not just that they've been restricted in terms of the house, but just in terms of just
growing up.
Development.
Yeah,
just because
I
I mean,
agree with
things
that
just
so
like
much.
Going clubbing and. Getting into certain types of music and certain types of scenes, that's all part of your development. If they're being pushed towards just gratification through drugs, then it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like,
Tell me about how you balance as a business leader two businesses which on their face are very different, because you've got your influencer marketing and you've got your wine group. Now, I know that they are linked because your marketing method is very much on that side, the influencer side. But just as a leader, how do you balance your priorities there between your two businesses?
I don't.
Fair enough.
That's basically it. Yeah, I just don't. I take every day as it comes. And like, people always ask me now, like, what's your role within the business? And I'm like, I am the person who takes the shit. So whenever the shit comes, I deal with it. I have to handle like whatever issue arises on that day. If that issue happens to be an influencer issue, that's the business I'm working on. If the issue that arises that day is a wine or distribution issue,
so you're still very involved operationally, are you?
Yeah,
right, I've got you.
Yeah. No, I'm fully. Don't get me wrong. I'd say Social Nation runs without me a lot better than Think does. Think is still so new, and it's my baby, and I'm so guarded on the branding and the brand, because the brand is me, and I'm so guarded about that I'd say I'm probably, it's necessary, I'm more hands-on with that. But with Social Nation, I've got a team of really good staff. They all know what they're doing. Yeah, as I say, I've got my sister working there. She's been with me 4 years. She thinks like me. So I've, that I can leave alone a lot more than I can leave Think alone. However, whenever there's an issue on either business, it's always me handling it. So if it's unless it's, a minuscule issue, but anything shit hitting the fan, it's always me. So I'm just like the shit catcher. Whatever business that it is, that's me. I'm just catching it from all angles.
That's not going to happen tonight. You're pleased to hear.
Thank God. A day off. There's a Friday night.
It's interesting that, because I think businesses go through that evolution that you just described, that when you're in that initial phase of growth, you have to be prepared to roll your sleeves up.
Oh, yeah.
I'm in a really fortunate position now, because I started my first business 10 years ago.
Yeah.
We've now grown. We've got 6 businesses. We've got 3 in the UK and 3 in Australia. Yeah. And if I tried to be how I was maybe 7, 8 years ago in terms of exactly what you've described, in terms of being, chief cook and bottle washer, doing kind of, if something goes wrong, I've got to fix it, or I've got to find someone to fix it. Yeah. I'd go bonkers. No, it's just impossible. Yeah. And the interesting one is, I think when a business goes through that evolution, the leader has to find a point where they just start to let go. Yeah. Do you see that as something you will be able to do?
I would like to. I do feel like I delegate way more than I used to. So I used to really hold on to things, but I was going loopy, to be honest. So I've definitely let go of quite a few things, and like I've got a really good team now. One is here, Sam. So he helps me a lot with like stuff that like I feel like, I don't know if I know I'm not that old, but like technology, I'm just not on top of it. And because he's a lot younger, he's so good with technology, and like he can just make things happen instantly. And I'm like, how did you do that? I don't get it. What stuff that would take me hours takes him 2 minutes. So I delegate a lot of things that I never would have previously to him because I trust him. But it's taken a while to build that trust within the team. And now I've got it, and everyone that I work with I trust, and I would be happy giving them jobs, but it's taken time. And I think I'm a slow burner, but I do hope I'll get there. I would like to one day be able to be like, right, okay, I'm off for a month, the phone's going off, no one speaks to me, bye, and come back and like the building's not on fire.
He told me about that.
Speaking of buildings,
I was going to say, all that trust, he told me you set the microwave on fire yesterday.
It wasn't him. It wasn't him. But it did happen.
Sam said that someone put a jack of potato in the microwave for 25 minutes. Dear, oh dear. I mean, I'm not the best of cooks, but even I know that you don't do that.
Yeah, it happened. And then the microwave went on fire, and then the whole office was smoked to death. And we've been trying today so that was an example of shit hitting the fan.
Yes.
So all the office have been kicked out. They've all had to work from home. And we've been in trying to like sort it. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm slowly but surely learning to let go a little bit, but it'll certainly be a while.
Mm-hmm. If our office went on fire, I'd be the first one down the fire escape.
You don't go down with your ship.
Oh my God!
Stop it!
What was it?
I hate you.
And that's a serious culinary faux pas, isn't it? That, dear oh dear.
Can we just see the big black cardboard?
I know. Stop it! Get my Brendan off that. That's horrifying.
I have to use that to carry the microwave on fire. You know, it's really interesting, because what I've found leading a business is when you're in the early stages of a business, your value you add is based on how much work you do. Mm-hmm. You work harder than everyone else. Yeah. You've got to, because it's yours, and it's the right thing to do at a period. Mm-hmm. I find now, because what you've said there about trusting your team resonates with me so much, because since I've stopped being such an idiot in terms of worrying about being wrong all the time, I've found that the people who I lead, they step up to the plate. Yeah. They improve, they develop, they take the challenges, they have more freedom to flourish in terms of what they do. Mm-hmm. And I find now that the volume of work I do now is probably lower than it's ever been. Yeah. But the pressure's higher because I'm judged now more on my decisions. Yeah. And my vision. Yeah. For our group. Yeah. Is that something you would aspire to? I mean, I'm not saying my job is perfect or that I'm perfect at it, but you've obviously been very visionary to date, and you're also managing to keep the plate spinning operationally. Yeah. Do you feel that if you were able in due course to let go or to step back from those operations, that entrepreneurial spirit you've got could really sort of fly even more than it has already?
Yeah, but I think that because of the entrepreneurial spirit that I have, I keep wanting to delve into different pies. So every good idea that I have, someone else has, someone wants me to be involved in, I want to be involved in. I'm like, yeah. And then I have to go, no, absolutely not. Keep your head screwed on. You've got to smash think before you can do other things. Yeah. And so it really takes me to rein myself in to stick to one thing, because I love business. Yeah. I just, as a whole, it doesn't matter what it is. The last thing I was thinking was I'd love to sell houses. I just love it. Because I've bought a house recently, so I got obsessed. So I knew everything there was to know about a house. And when people were showing me around, they didn't have a clue. And I'm like, oh my God, you're so shocking at being an estate agent. I'll just be one. So then I think I can solve the world's problems by being every single job on earth, because everyone's so shit at the job.
But do you know what though? It's interesting, because I wouldn't want you to sort of lose that, because that is what entrepreneurs do. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we've got in our group, we've got 2 law firms, we've got a tech business, we've got a medical business. We're very shortly going to have it's basically like an accident management business. When people have accidents, we're going to give them a digital platform to access various services. Yeah. And those ideas we've had that have come to life, we've had 10 times, or I've had 10 times the number of ideas, which have been dreadful. If you think for every good idea, there probably has to be 10 bad ones, doesn't there? Because there's no original ideas. Absolutely. We're just adapting. We're looking at someone else's business and thinking,
how we can do it better.
Well, you're not doing that very well, are you? Yes. Why couldn't I do that? And I wouldn't want any entrepreneur to lose that ability to have good ideas, bad ideas, discard, move forward with things. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
No, I know. I'd love to one day, because I always say I do want to sell Think in the end. That's the end goal. I'd love to sell it for loads of money and be like, okay, that's me done. But I just know it wouldn't happen. I know that I wouldn't be able to just go to sleep and be like, I'm just rich now. That's that. How could you?
Do you really want to? I mean, you think to yourself, you just keep doing the lottery, wouldn't you? If that was all that motivated you. you know, I'm thinking to myself, people who say I want to be out by the time I'm 40. I mean, I'm 44 now, and it's not that I'm sort of thinking, right, I just want to work forever. I want to make money forever.
Yeah.
It's about thinking to yourself, well, what does retirement mean?
Yeah.
Does it mean literally you do nothing all day? Can you think of anything worse?
No.
Just sat there, or even just being an oldie all the time and go out for meals. You know, there's a point to being alive. Life isn't that long.
You just become nosy when you're that bored.
You would,
don't you?
Well, you wouldn't feel fulfilled, would you?
No.
I was really interested in what you were talking about earlier about when you had that issue with the first business you were at. It really reminded me of something that had happened to me.
Yeah.
My first business partnership kind of fell apart.
Yeah.
So this is like 12 years ago. And the situation wasn't identical to yours in terms of you pitching this idea and you being treated so poorly.
Yeah.
But there were elements of it that were the same. There was this conflict. There was disappointment. There was frustration. I felt that I'd sort of written off a period in my life when I was committed to a certain business. And, you know, when there's money involved and there's reputations involved and all that sort of thing. How did you, I mean, you mentioned earlier that you felt it was quite a negative sort of period.
Yeah.
How did you handle that just personally?
It was the first time I've ever had anxiety. So I used to think that, like, it sounds so bad to say, but it's just the truth. Like, I used to think anxiety was a myth. Like, I was like, oh, everyone says it. It's an excuse. Like, they're just saying it because, like, everyone has a down day, whatever. That's not anxiety. Like, it's not a thing. And that's what I thought until I got hit with it myself. Because when we, like, split off from each other, it was over Christmas. So it was like the worst time. You know, my birthday's the 21st of December. We had loads of Christmas dues. We had birthday dues booked, you know, and this all happened on like the 17th of December or something. It was like, it was just a bad time because you already, you know, it's meant to be this happy time and you feel like so low. And especially because it was only then that I actually realized for the first time, I don't own a single thing anymore. Because everything's company car, company laptop, company phone. So when I go, I hand it all back and I have nothing, basically. So what actually happened was I ended up in bed for like a week. Like just, I probably cried for like a day. And the rest of it was just like, you know, sleeping. And bearing in mind, I hadn't had a day off work in 5 years since the day I started. Like, even though I'd had days off, I'd never actually got off my phone, got off my laptop. But because these people, when you manage them in full, they're phoning you to book them taxis. They're phoning you for any little reason that's unnecessary. They can't stop phoning you. So even on your days off, even if it's a Sunday, you know you're going to work at least 2 hours that day. So I hadn't had an actual day off in like 5 years. So it was the first time I was like, wow, I've got no phone, no laptop, no nothing. I've got nothing to do. I just lay there for like a week, just like in bed. I cried a bit, didn't know what I was going to do. And then on like probably 6th day or whatever, I was just like, okay, I better crack on now. And it was just that.
I've got such a lot of empathy for you because I very much went through similar thought processes when that first business failed or the business relationship failed. And I'm always fascinated when people are able to fight back from that because it's not easy.
No.
And particularly if you commit having fought back to an ambitious, driven project or future.
Yeah.
Can you recall that moment when you were in bed and you thought this has to change?
No, it wasn't then. All I was trying to do when I was coming out of bed was get out of bed. So it was like on that 6th day, it was like, right, today I'm going to go and like go to my mum's, have a walk, go to the gym, whatever. And it was like, it was only a small step. It wasn't until my mum bought me a phone. And so I had a phone then. And then that's when my phone started blowing up with people trying to hire me or my clients missing me. And it was that moment that was like, oh, what have I been doing? Like, I'm crying over spilt milk. Clearly, like, I must have had 10 job offers. It was off like the brands that I'd work with. So like I'd work with loads of beauty brands, hair and makeup brands, like loads of brands. And when that phone got switched on, it was all these people after me. So it was just that was it. It was just the boost I needed, that it was like, okay, that was stupid, bye, I'm over it. And it was like I was over it that day.
But I'm fascinated by this issue of you taking those first tentative steps back to positivity, and how if you hadn't gone to your mum's, and if your mum hadn't got you the phone, and if you hadn't started going to the gym, it's about continuing to move forward when you don't feel like it.
Yeah. You have to force yourself. There's no way around that. You've just got to force yourself, and it just does get better. And like, I can honestly tell you, that has been worse than any breakup I've ever had, to the point where, like, say if I've broken up with someone, I might be sad for 3 months. I was upset about that. It felt like a dagger to the heart for at least 1.5 years. So like the mere mention of his name, and I'd be like, I feel ill. And it wasn't any kind of like relationship. It was purely like boss employee, but we'd become just mates. And I loved him to pieces. So like whenever any mention of his name, any mention of like that period, I felt ill. I was like, I'm sick. Like I can't face it. And then after 1.5 years, and people would always say to me, and of course, like, people are older and wiser, they'd always say, you'll look back and this will be the best thing that ever happened to you. And I'd be like, never. How can me being in bed for a week, being ill every time I hear his name, how will that be the best thing for me at any point? And then it is. So, listen to people when they're telling you that, you might feel shit now, but actually it'll be fine and it'll get better. And that's the best thing that ever happened. As long as you keep on, keep forward. On keeping on. Don't let anyone knock you down and don't get back up, because why?
You're right. I mean, this is exactly how I felt when my business issue occurred. That when you're anxious, which I was very anxious.
Yeah, same.
That your mind starts to catastrophize. It starts to scenarioize. I was starting to picture how things could continue to go wrong, and how they, perhaps how I, all of the situation I am was my own doing, and how there was no way back and that sort of thing. But I mean, if you're feeling awful, I think the key thing to remember is that's not okay.
Yeah.
It's not. When you mentioned self-development books earlier, the issue I have with some self-development coaches, not all, some,
of course,
is that what they say to people is they say, stop beating yourself up. You don't need to feel anxious because you're okay. You're okay as you are. You're a great person as you are. What you are at any given point is nothing compared to what you could be.
Yeah.
And that's a much more positive message. It doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to accept
that's just true. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I agree. It's like the way the teachers now in school, where it's like, oh, sorry, you can't win anything because everyone's a winner. It's not true. You're not all winners.
You're not.
Sorry, but you're just not. And like, if we were all the same, there wouldn't be people who are on another level, because not everyone is built for big things, and that's okay. That's their choice and that's how they're happy. But for me, like, I would never be happy with like mediocre ever.
Me neither. What? Do you know what? I'm gonna have another glass of wine. I'm enjoying this so well.
We've nailed them.
Oh, have you?
Get a pink. Yeah, get the pink, because you need to try the pink.
Tasty. We'll have to, sorry, Sam, if you're listening to this, we're going to nail yours.
Yeah, that's all right. She's probably halfway through her second bottle of Blossom's Hill already.
Simon's actually spoke to me and others about the fact that the schools do that now. So
yeah.
The fact that
Do you know what it is? It's a tricky one, because this issue of not everyone's the same. We're not.
No.
And one of the ways we're not all the same is just competence.
Yeah.
Forget what your gender is. Forget what your sexuality is. Forget what your ethnicity is. We're not all as good at everything as everyone else. I mean,
or as logical. That's like a huge thing. I find that there's so many people without any logic.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how does your brain think that that's acceptable?
Yeah. It's interesting though, with you being in influencer marketing as well, because I mean, isn't that what influencer marketing is all about? A little bit, insofar as when you see some of these influencers, celebrities, it almost, don't get me wrong, I mean, some of them are fantastic at what they do and they're very gifted in their own right.
Yeah.
But the impression can be that wealth and success and fulfillment and luxury is easily attained. Is that how you view it?
Well, it is for them. For me, it's hard, right? Because I work in influencer marketing. That doesn't mean I love it.
No.
That doesn't mean that I follow influencers. That doesn't mean that I live an influencer's life. Like, I work in that because it's a viable business that makes good money, and I enjoy it. And it's different every day. And I fell into that. Like, it was never, but the funny thing is, when I told my mates I first got that job, they were like, you've never watched a reality TV show in your life. You won't even read OK Mag because you're too busy reading like absolute, they'd always say I'd read the bullshit magazines, like about grandmas who've like ran away with someone for a visa and stuff like this. Like, I'd always read like really shocking like old woman magazines basically. And my mates would be reading about influencers and how to dress well and designer gear. And I was never on board with them. I was never like that. So when I got this job, everyone was like, how have you got this job with influencers?
So it wasn't something you were particularly committed to. It was something which just developed through circumstance.
It's just that I was good at it. And I was probably good at it because I didn't care. I didn't care who these people were. All I cared about was making money for the business and making the money successful. So I think the fact that I've never given a shit about influencers is what's made me so successful working with them. And therefore, maybe it is the case and maybe people do look up, but you've got to remember that they have got it easy. They've been on a TV show. It's not easy as such. They've still got to do work, but they've been on a TV show, so they've got all these followers, and now all of a sudden they've got a lot of money without doing that much.
Yeah. It's difficult, isn't it? Because whilst it's easy for someone, I didn't mean to be snobby about influencers at all, but I mean, it has a value what they do, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, people
they sell things.
Well, they do, and people have been snooty, haven't they, over the years about footballers and about models and about actors and about singers. And so, is that all you do? You just go on and do this?
Yeah.
But if something has value,
Yeah.
then who is anyone to say, well, you've had it easy?
Well, don't do that, yeah. And you don't know as well because some people have had some of them have had really rough upbringings and now they're like, obviously they're smashing it and they still do work. Like, I can never say like, oh, they don't do work because they do, but it's just that it's not like what we view. It's no 9 to 5. It's a couple of hours a day and it's bits and bobs, but they're all self-employed. Tomorrow they could fall flat on their face.
Yeah.
So they've got to do what they can while they can to rake in the money.
Yeah.
I want what's best for them. And I also want what's best for the brands. And I think that's why we work as an agency, because we're very fair to both parties. We work really well with the brands, but we really look after the influencers and we want to guard them from like, any bad things happening, basically.
Of course, and you've got to look after your clients, haven't you?
Yeah,
and
of course.
It's interesting that point you've just made on brands. I mean, first I've moved on now to this is a is it a Pinot Rosé?
Grigio sparkling rosé.
It's very, very good indeed.
I like it, yeah. Huh?
You're on the pink stuff now.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It's beautiful. I'm not just saying this. I would really recommend it because it's so tasty.
That's my favourite one.
It really is beautiful. And what do people do, or businesses who are listening? Do they just go on your socials? Can they order via Instagram?
Yeah, so we've got a website. It's www.thinkwinegroup.co.uk or @thinkwinegroup on Instagram. So yeah, follow and buy, of course.
Well, we'll put all those on our socials as well. What's your vision for Think Wine Group? If we met again here in 5 years, say, and I was to say, how's it gone? And if everything had gone as you'd hoped, what would Think Wine Group be then? What would it look like?
Very near ready for sale.
That's a great answer because that's a great answer because that's a very clear vision and that's why I love it. That there has to be an end.
Yeah. By that point, did you say 5 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, by 5 years, I'd like it very near to sale. You know what? My vision for this brand is to come into the market, be completely different, be a very strong brand, mess with the market that much that someone be it LVMH, be it Diageo, comes along and goes, actually, you're really pissing us off. We're just going to buy you. And I'm going to be like, okay.
Yeah.
What a shame. Pass the mills.
But you know if they did that in terms of a wine brand, are they buying the sort of like the goodwill? Are they buying the brand, or are they buying the relationship with the vineyard? Are they buying contracts?
Yeah, it would be the whole shebang.
Right.
If they were to buy the business, they would buy the business as if. So the contract with the winery that says that they can't create that wine for anyone else, that specific wine with them, that brand, they can't just go like overnight going, right, okay, we're going to tear this brand down and create a brand new one under the same name. Like, they're buying the brand kind of as is.
Yeah.
And they probably, I think the way it would work is they'd have to take me on with it for like another 5 years.
Yeah, which is quite normal in acquisition situations, isn't it?
Which is fine, because I can start maybe taking a bit more of a backseat, and then I'm sure one of my other ideas at that point will come to fruition, which is fine. I think my actual goal in life is to just start and sell businesses.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And how important is money in your journey?
I love money, and it's the truth, and I won't lie. I'd say it's 50% of what motivates me. I love doing whatever I want when I want. I hate not being able to do whatever I want when I want. I want to buy whatever I want at all times. So if I go in an airport and I fancy a $3,000 bag, that's what I want. And I hate being restricted by money. I hate not being able to go on all the holidays that I want. And I think that, to live like an amazing life, you need money. So I am 50% motivated by money, but I'm 50% motivated by like, I don't know. I feel like I can only call it like internal drive.
Absolutely. It's personal fulfillment.
Yeah.
It's enjoying the acquisition of that money through a process which inspires you and which gives you great gratification in terms of just what your own values, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't it's hard. Yeah, it's that. But I don't know how you put your finger on that.
Because from everything you've described today, I'm betting that if I gave you a racing tip, a horse racing tip that I could guarantee was going to win tomorrow and give you a load of money, I'm not getting that you would find that particularly motivating. I think there has to be more than that.
That's too quick. Like, where's the hell in that?
But that's really interesting though, isn't it? Because that struggle and overcoming adversity, that's what the rewards. That's what makes the rewards so worthwhile.
It is, yeah. And it's taken years, but like resilience is like, it's built over years, and I think I'm very, very resilient. Like I've been even in the past couple of years, like I've had a member of staff work for me for 4 years, loved him to pieces, stole £14,000 off me, and that's another one that knocked me as well. So
how did he manage that then? Was it in cash?
No, it was in basically he pretended to be an influencer. And he was messaging brands saying, pay me to my account and I'll post for you.
Oh, right.
So he was using my contacts and my influencer's name to extort money from the brands.
And how did you find out?
Into his own bank account. It was actually after he'd left. We ended up just finding all types of bits and bobs of evidence. And so that knocked me again, just purely because I've got such loyalty and like my morals are really strong. I never want to fuck someone over. I just don't. Sorry, can I swear?
You've been doing truth throughout.
Saying shit 60 times.
Oh, no, you can say whatever you want.
I can say fuck.
No, listen, you can say whatever you want. Whatever you want.
Like I never want to do that to someone. So I think when it happens to me, it shocks me to my very core. So that was another one that sent me to bed. That made me sick. But again, I was just a few days, got to get back up because what are you going to do? Like,
why did it have that why? Because obviously this person completely let you down. They're a criminal.
Yeah.
What they've done is they, I would looking at it rationally, which I can do in this situation, but I wouldn't do if I was in your shoes.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, the way they've behaved has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
It's to do with them.
Yeah.
Why did it have that impact on you in terms of you internalising it?
I just loved him. There's no other explanation other than I loved him. It was like, imagine my sister did it to me. Like it was like that, because I'd like nurtured him. He'd come and work for me after like his old employee didn't treat him well. So employer didn't treat him well. And like he came work to me, you know, there was a big sob story. And also I think like he had some issues and like I'd helped him out with that. And like, you know, when you build a bond with someone and you've helped them out so much and you just think, how can you throw that back in my face when I've done all this for you? And it just, I guess it's the same, you know, when someone cheats on you and you feel sick, it's like that feeling of you feel ill. Yeah. And that's what it was. I don't know why, because obviously logically, why should I give a shit about him? He's an knobhead. But that's not how you feel.
Well, it's not. And it's particularly when you make that investment in people, that emotional investment in someone, and they let you down to that extent.
And that's what it was. And I think the reason those two, I think out of all the things I've had people try to be fraudulent. I've had people try and rip me off. I've had all types of crap. But those two events that I've spoken about today, they were the worst ones. And that was purely because I loved them. No other reason. I think when I don't love someone, so like, you know, the people who've tried to be fraudulent or mess around or, you know, make fake orders or trolls, I've dealt with, because my influencers get trolled to death.
Sure.
I've dealt with trolls because I've had to defend them. I've had to have fights with newspapers, you know, all these things that like, it would knock it out of anyone else. But for me, I don't care, because I don't care about them. You know, I don't care about the newspapers, so I'll say whatever I want to them. I don't care about the troll, I'll say whatever I want. If a troll says something to me, I don't know you, I don't care. But when you love someone and they do something to you, it's a completely different thing.
I can completely see what you mean. I mean, I work on our board. I hesitate to call them a board because they're my mates.
Yeah.
There's 6 of us, and we've been through thick and thin together, and we're all the same age. But I'm thinking, if one of them did that to me, I would start to question myself as much as them.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes there are situations in life which are just tough, that there's no rationalizing, that there's no saying, well, you probably shouldn't feel like that, you should feel like that. It's just about, life isn't supposed to be easy. There's obstacles that are going to be thrown in your way. There's difficult situations.
Yeah.
But you have to just puff your chest out, and you've got to keep moving forward.
Crack on,
And that if you do that and you've got a purpose, you will get out of that mire in at some point.
Yeah. No, well, exactly. And like that one was easier because the first one, obviously, I didn't know where I was going when I was pulling myself out of bed that time around. This time around, I was pulling myself out of bed because I had a team to run. I had a staff, I had an office, I had a business. What else did I have to? I had no choice. I got me 2 days, and then it was like, okay, that's enough, crack on. And you do. And I recovered a lot quicker as well. You know, I said it was like a year and a half. It's been maybe like 6 months or something. And
wow, I'm recently as that?
Yeah, it's not long ago. But I'm over it.
Yeah.
Like I'm fully over it, and it's been a lot easier that time. I just think it's like each time something happens, it just gets easier to deal with. So,
well, you're faced with setbacks, aren't you? You get better. You do get better at dealing with them, and but it still doesn't mean they're easy. I mean,
No.
it's kind of like, you know, whenever something faces you, which is the cause of sadness or anxiety, you know, it takes some battling through, and to build the resilience you have is amazing. But I think you've every reason to feel as positive as you do. I mean, have you got any ambitions to get thinking into supermarkets and that sort of thing?
Yeah, but it's got to be the right ones. So like your Waitrose, your Ocado, M&S, those, I'd absolutely love that. I don't want your Tesco, your Asda, your Aldi. They batter you on price. You lose money every time. I'm not like a Diageo. You know, Diageo owns bloody 80% of brands.
Oh, really?
So many. Oh my God.
In the wine sector?
In like just alcohol, I mean.
Right.
They have so many. And they've got that much money, they can just throw it at marketing left, right and centre. They can lose money in supermarkets. They can lose money here, there and everywhere and still be absolutely top of the market.
Right.
While as for us, obviously, we don't have that. We don't have that spending power or the power to just keep losing money. And I've got two completely different businesses. I've got one, Social Nation, where I made money day one, was profitable day one. And then I've got Think, which I'm 2 years in and I'm just breaking even. So they're completely different.
Because there's a lot of investment in what you've done in Think, isn't there? The vineyard relationship and the team and just the practicalities of producing a wine product.
Yeah. And especially when you've not got a wine background. Wine was only my passion. Like, I've never worked in the sales of alcohol. I've never worked in the on-trade, the off-trade, in supermarkets, distribution, none of that. So everything has been brand new. And I'm quite lucky that I started it young enough to still learn. Because every day is a school day and I'm just constantly learn. Like, oh, right. Okay. That's how that works. But, it's Think is way tougher, but it's got way more rewards.
Loads more potential as well.
Yeah,
just
loads
in terms
more potential for scalability because it's very much requires people for Social Nation.
Yeah.
The scalability isn't there for it.
Interesting.
Scalability is definitely there for Think. So Think is going to be the one that like makes us fly. It's just Social Nation is just a passion and I love it. But as I say, we made money because all you need is a laptop and a phone. We made money day one. We were profitable. Like, okay, great. There's money in our bank straight away. And it's so different, I think.
It's interesting what you're saying about continuing to learn. You should do a podcast, you know. Have you ever thought about it?
No.
Have you not?
No.
Shouldn't you, Jacob?
Messing.
No. No, you should. You should. You could do, because you're so passionate about wine and about the industry.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do a really good podcast on that.
I'd be interested in. Sorry, what did you say?
We should put you in touch with Matty Farrell because he's big on the alcohol scenery. Do you know Matt Farrell?
Oh my God, yeah. Do you know what?
We had him on this. He was amazing.
So who is he? My cousin Dean is married to a girl, Leanne. Leanne's sister is married to Matt.
Oh, okay.
So Matt's come the family parties a few times. But you know what, Matt? You haven't got us in to any of your venues.
Oh, listen, it's been so amazing talking to you because
thank you.
what's so inspirational for me is not just what you've achieved in terms of your business, but also just how open and transparent you are and how you're willing to not just share your experiences, but the way you've felt in certain situations. And that's what I really enjoy. And that's why I started doing this podcast because that learning about how people feel in similar situations, I mean, that's learning gold because it helps you tackle different situations. And I've definitely learned some stuff from you today, Kath. So
thanks, same.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Very best of luck with Think Wine Group and also with We Are Social Nation.
Yeah.
And I hope you'll come back and see us again.
Yeah, definitely.
So Kath Jones, everyone.
Thank you.